Hello friends, this is Jasu Bakuhatsu, and welcome to Let's Play Aladdin. Now, there's a bit of debate and discussion out there as to whether the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis version of Aladdin was the superior game. In the end, I imagine it comes down to which was the one you played more of as a kid, but as it turns out, I grew up with a completely different version of Aladdin. This is Aladdin for the Sega Master System, which is, one of the games I owned as a kid. On the Game Gear, in fact. This game was released on both the Master System and the Game Gear. They're essentially the exact same game, though. But I'm going to be playing the Master System version here, just because, well, I'll get into that later. But, yeah, this is the Aladdin game that, from my childhood. I am by no means going to attempt to make the argument that this is a better game than either of the other two versions I mentioned, but nevertheless, I still think it's a nice little game, and it's an often overlooked version of Aladdin, and so, yeah, I just thought we'd have a look at it here. So, yeah, as you can see, we actually start things off here with a bit of unusual gameplay. This is just sort of a running, auto-scrolling segment. I guess I wouldn't really call it that unusual, though, since this game is kind of evenly divided between three different types of gameplay. And, so yeah, the first thing I kind of want to comment on is that this game looks kind of ridiculously good, I think, for an 8-bit game. I mean, if you saw on the title screen there, this game was actually released in 1994, which is ridiculously late into the the sort of life cycle of 8-bit systems, but even so, like, just look at this, like, just a crazy amount of detail. You've got, like, parallax scrolling on, like, multiple different levels, and it's just a really great looking game for an 8-bit game, I think. Although I actually don't know if this is, like, typical of the sort of caliber of graphics you would see on the Sega Master System. So I didn't actually own a Master System as a kid. I had a Game Gear, and the two were... So the Game Gear was essentially a portable Master System with a really low-resolution screen. So what you ended up seeing back in the day, apparently, is a lot of Master Systems games would just receive straight-up ports to the Game Gear that were basically identical. But what ends up happening most of the time in those cases is because the resolution on the Game Gear is so much lower than the resolution output by the Master System, is they just keep the exact same graphics but crop the screen so that you basically just have less screen space to work with, which would make basically ruined a lot of Game Gear versions of a lot of games. But this Aladdin I actually found holds up well. I find it was developed, I would imagine, with the Game Gear in mind from the start, because I did a quick test playthrough of the Game Gear version of this game, and I thought it held up surprisingly well. There's those sort of screen cropping issues that you often find in Game Gear, those Game Gear ports of Master System games, didn't really come up as often as you find in a lot of other Game Gear ports of Master System games. And so yeah, as you can see, we're sort of just moving along at a pretty quick pace here. The levels in this game are typically very short, and it's actually a very short game in general. My test playthrough did not take very long at all, so this is kind of going to end up being a sort of a mini LP. And I think it's actually, just a sort of, I guess, comment on this now. It's kind of interesting the different approach this version of the game has to storytelling compared to the Genesis and Super Nintendo versions. Although that is like really, I never noticed this before, but that's like really, like, just completely stupidly reckless what Jasmine just did there. It's just like, oh, I just saw a dude pole vault over this gap between two rooftops, and I'm just gonna try out this pole vaulting trick that I've only seen a dude do once just now, and I've never practiced it before. It's just like, yeah, she should have cracked her head open on the pavement that definitely existed back in ancient Middle Eastern times. Anyways, I don't know why I suddenly thought to comment on that. Anyway, so basically for this version of the game, they took scenes pretty much directly from the movie. Like, even the dialogue in these scenes is pretty much exactly the same as from the movie. Like, yeah, pretty much taken directly from the script of the original movie, which is kind of an interesting, or actually no, it's probably the least interesting approach you could possibly do for this sort of thing, now that I think of it. But it's interesting how it contrasts with the way they did things in the other two versions of the game. Wow, this is a really long cutscene. I skipped the cutscenes in my test playthrough. So, yeah, I didn't... Okay, so with my test playthrough, I actually got through this game in like less than 20 minutes, but I was skipping all the cutscenes, and like, this is kind of ridiculous. And I know there's more still ahead before we even get to the next level. Like, there's no Palace Dungeon level like there was in the Super Nintendo. We got cutscenes all the way till Aladdin gets to the Cave of Wonders. This is actually amazing. I did not preview the cutscenes for this as well. This is like Metal Gear Solid level gameplay to cutscene ratio right here. But anyways, so yeah, on the Super Nintendo version, instead of just directly lifting scenes from the game, it had sort of a storybook quality to it, where it would just show up some still images between levels, and then there would be like a narrator, or a sort of narration text below it. So it's like, instead of like just showing you the scene from the movie like it does in this game, on the Super Nintendo, it would just be like, and then Aladdin and Jasmine ran away to Aladdin's rooftop hideaway, and then they shared a moment, but then the guards came, and, you know, it would be like sort of a sort of like a children's storybook. In fact, you could lift the interlevel cutscenes from the Super Nintendo version and just like stick them with the pictures and everything and the text right into just like a children's storybook, and then just sell that as like Aladdin the kids book. And that was sort of the way that Super Nintendo game handled its retelling of the story of the Aladdin movie, whereas the Genesis one basically just completely ignored the plot entirely. It was essentially just sort of like an action game with an Aladdin paint job. There was like no cutscenes, no narration text, no story of any description whatsoever. It's just like you're in the Agrabah level, you clear the Agrabah level, and then you just go straight to, I think it's the Cave of Wonders, or no, I think you go to the Palace Dungeon level after that, and it's just like one level, then the next, with no segue between them whatsoever, which was kind of a less than ideal way to do that. I'd say the Super Nintendo definitely handled things the best in that regard. I was not expecting to talk this much about this story, this game's approach to storytelling, because, my goodness, we're still not there. Like, we have literally been watching cutscenes. We have been watching cutscenes longer than I've actually been playing this game so far. This is ridiculous. And it's not even a really interesting approach to storytelling either, because it's just the movie. Like, I've seen the movie a billion times. I could recite this to you. Like, I know everything they're going to say, because it's the same stuff they say in the movie. I could, like, recite this to you without even, like, with my eyes closed. Although I'm not going to, because I can't really do voices. That's something I've kind of been wanting to get some practice on. I wish I had that ability. It's something I've always this complete tangent, but I've got nothing better to talk about, because it's not like we're playing a video game or anything. But yeah, I've always envied voice actors, their talents. It's something I've always wished I was able to do. So okay, it looks like we're actually coming up on some actual gameplay here. So we've had two running auto-scrolling levels so far, and this is, again, don't think I could even really call this like the normal gameplay, because there's just as much. We aren't even at it yet. So yeah, here we are. These are like your walking levels, I guess. And there we go. I fell off the side because I'm an idiot. Well, this isn't an auto-run level. I just accidentally double-tapped forward because my thumbs are really, I don't know, jerky. So yeah, very reminiscent of... That is some nonsense right there. Very reminiscent of the original Prince of Persia, the controls in these sections of the game. Yeah, you double tap to run. In fact, yeah, even Aladdin's animations are very, very similar to the original Prince of Persia. So yeah, you've actually got not a whole lot of different moves here. So yeah, basically you can run, you can jump, you can slide by hitting the action button while running. And then there's also a little sort of sneaking move that we'll see in a moment that you can use to get past spikes. But even though the controls are very similar to Prince of Persia, the level design is not really like that at all. These are extremely linear, these sort of walking segments with like couple different branching paths, but mainly just, it's like down one path will be a dead end or a doorway usually, and then down the other path will be the key to that doorway, which is, it kind of makes for some annoying situations sometimes. And incidentally, I have no idea how to get the bread that was back there, because as far as I can tell, you can't hang off that ledge without being directly underneath it. So you saw we had kind of a branch there where I could have gone up, taken the upper path or the lower path. The upper path just eventually leads to a dead end with a door where you need the key that I just collected to open it. So that's kind of an annoying thing that happens sometimes in this game, where it's just like you choose one path or the other, and if you choose the wrong one, you just have to backtrack a bunch. But nevertheless, kind of interesting. I don't know why. That's just sort of my catch-all phrase for me just describing something that's actually not really very interesting at all. But so I was talking about the graphics before. In fact, like I said, I've never owned a Sega Master System, and in fact, I've never even really played any Sega Master System games at all, other than, you know, sort of the Game Gear versions of Master System games that I played. And it's something I've always been sort of interested to try out, because I owned a few games for the Game Gear back in the day, and most of those games had Master System versions that would probably have fixed a lot of the problems I had with those Game Gear games, because, yeah, pretty much almost all of the Game Gear games in my collection had those issues I was talking about with the cropped screen that would, like, cut off like essential information and force you to make blind jumps and make it so that you don't have enough time to react to stuff that's coming at you. Just a lot of those kinds of problems in Game Gear games. So I've been so that's kind of what's going on here. Is I want to start kind of, not really a series, but just something I'd like to do is to just go back and play the Master System games of all the old Game Gear games I used to own as a kid, and just see how if they're improved or fixed at all by the if the Master System versions are just any better in that regard. But other than, and maybe I would kind of be interested in checking out just Master System games in general also, because like I said, it's a system I'm pretty much completely unfamiliar with. Oh, excuse me, I had a little bit of gas there. Oh yeah, the treasures in this section of the level are actually fatal. Oh yeah, just like that. Totally. So here I'm just showing off to you what happens there. That was totally intended. So yeah.